Russia's GDP per capita in 2022 nears record high of 2013. Russia's gross domestic product, GDP, per capita topped $15,000 last year, edging closer to an all-time high seen in 2013, according to International Monetary Fund, IMF, data analyzed by Sputnik. The data shows that Russia's GDP per capita reached $15,440 in 2022, up 22.3% or $2,820 year-on-year, which is the highest level since 2013, when it stood at a record high of $15,930. GDP per capita grew in 74 out of 100 sampled countries, rising the most in Guyana, 89.1%, Armenia, 40.6%, Georgia, 33.4%, Kuwait, 32.7%, and the Seychelles, 31%. The indicator declined in 25 countries, 19 of which are European nations. Japan, minus 15.2%, and Sweden, minus 8.6%, saw the largest drop in GDP per capita, followed by Hungary, France, Chile, Finland, Luxembourg, Germany, and Italy. Earlier in May, data from the World Bank and Statistical Services analyzed by Sputnik showed that Russia returned to the top 10 largest economies last year for the first time since 2014. China's forex committee pledges to suppress currency speculation. China's market guiding body made up of officials from the central bank on Friday stressed the importance of curbing extreme exchange rate fluctuations of the yuan, after the currency weakened past 7 per US dollar on Wednesday for the first time this year. The China Foreign Exchange Committee, CFXC, a mechanism made up of regulators from the People's Bank of China and the State Administration of Foreign Exchange as well as industry participants to provide guidance on the forex market, said it was vital to actively maintain the basic stability of the forex market and suppress extreme fluctuations. At its first meeting this year, the CFXC members said the country's macroeconomy provides a solid foundation for the stable operation of the forex market. The committee highlighted that China's market-oriented forex market continued to advance, and that it possesses the ability to correct itself and keep the Chinese currency at a stable and reasonable level. They pointed out that the two-way fluctuation of the yuan has been more apparent recently, given a mixture of high interest rates as well as global banking risks that are fueling risk-aversion appetite in the market and pushing up the US dollar in the short term. Meanwhile, China's regulators will continue to strengthen supervision and, if necessary, make corrections to the pro-cyclical behavior and curb speculation, members of the committee added. German defense minister wants special military funds spent soon to avoid inflation risks. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said on Friday that he intends to spend the Bundeswehr's special fund of €100 billion, $108 billion, as soon as possible so that its purchasing power is not reduced by inflation. I'm going to insist upon it that the special fund be spent as soon as possible, so that it is eaten up by inflation as little as possible. I also intend to achieve an increase in the Defense Ministry's share in the federal budget, he said in an interview with German media. The minister added it is essential to redefine the role of the country's armed forces amid the continuing conflict in Ukraine. We come from the times when we lived on dividends of the peaceful time and when the NATO alliance and the national defense were less important. Now everything has changed again, and we have to adapt, Pistorius said. In June, the German Parliament and the Federal Council approved by a majority of votes German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's initiative to create a special fund of €100 billion to improve the country's defense capabilities, making the German armed forces the largest regular army in Europe. On January 27, Pistorius told German media that the special defense fund would not be enough for Germany to modernize its troops and cover maintenance costs for military equipment. Later, outlets reported that Pistorius had called for an increase of €10 billion per year in the annual budget of Germany's armed forces. Cost of Queen Elizabeth's funeral revealed. The UK spent over $200 million to bid a final farewell to its longest-serving monarch, according to the Treasury. The British government spent £162 million, $204 million, on Queen Elizabeth II's funeral and related events, the Treasury revealed this week. The monarch's death on September 8 was followed by 10 days of national mourning, which concluded with the state funeral on September 19. Queen Elizabeth II died aged 96 at Balmoral Castle in Scotland, having been the longest-serving British monarch. Her death was a moment of huge national significance, said Chief Secretary to the Treasury John Glenn, adding that the government had to ensure the surrounding events ran smoothly and with the appropriate level of dignity, while at all times ensuring the safety and security of the public. A breakdown of costs provided by the Treasury showed that the Home Office paid the largest amount at £74 million, followed by the Department for Culture, Media, and Sport, which covered £57.4 million. The Scottish Government paid £18.8 million, while the Welsh Government and Northern Ireland Office paid about £2 million each. According to the Treasury, the Scottish and Welsh Government and the Northern Ireland Office were fully refunded for their respective costs. An estimated 250,000 members of the public saw the late British monarch lying in state in London during the mourning period, with many queuing for hours to pay their respects. The Queen was buried at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle, Berkshire. The National Police Chiefs Council describes the event as the largest ever operation for the Metropolitan Police, ahead of the opening and closing ceremonies for the London Olympics in 2012. The Queen's successor and son, King Charles III, was crowned on May 6 during a three-day weekend of coronation celebrations, which are projected to have cost between £50 million and £100 million. Investor failed to get Russian visa to attend court hearing, lawyer Michael Calvi had received a 5.5-year suspended sentence. U.S. private equity investor Michael Calvi could not acquire a visa in order to appear at a Moscow court hearing of his appeal against a fraud conviction, his lawyer, Larissa Koshtanova, told Interfax on Friday. Calvi's French associate, Philippe Delpel, also failed to appear in the court. His lawyer claimed the businessman had planned to attend the trial, but could not do so due to visa difficulties in the current circumstances. Attorneys for both men confirmed that their clients agreed to be tried in absentia. In 2021, Calvi, the former head of Bering Vostok, a $3.7 billion investment firm which he founded, was handed a 5.5-year suspended sentence in Russia for embezzlement, after a judge found that he and his colleagues conspired to pocket tens of millions of dollars. The other figures in the case were also given suspended sentences, including Delpel, who received 4.5 years. The two were accused of running a $34 million embezzlement scheme related to loans issued by a bank owned by Calvi's Bering Vostok Fund in 2015. In January 2022, an appeals court lifted the restrictions on the partners' movements. In March 2023, Calvi and Delpel left Russia. Bering Vostok was once considered the largest independent private equity firm focused on investments in Russia and the Commonwealth of Independent States. It directly invested in a wide range of industries including oil and gas, consumer products, media and technology, telecommunications, and financial services. Russia-Saudi agri-trade jumps. The two countries aim to boost annual turnover to $5 billion. The volume of mutual trade in agricultural and food products between Russia and Saudi Arabia doubled between January and April, according to the Russian Ministry of Agriculture. The statement was made following a meeting of the ministry's head, Dmitry Patrushev, with the governor of the Saudi General Food Security Authority, Ahmed Al-Faris. This year, the positive dynamics continue, while in 4 months the volume of mutual trade has already more than doubled, the statement read. The Russian ministry reported that trade turnover in agricultural and food products reached record highs in 2022. About 70% of that trade was in grain, and exports of Russian meat products have also been growing, it added. Russian ambassador to Saudi Arabia Sergei Kozlov had previously said there was plenty of room for growth in the two countries' trade. The turnover amounted to about $1.75 billion in 2022, with Moscow and Riyadh aiming to boost annual trade to $5 billion, he noted. In March, Saudi Arabia joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, which is led by China and Russia. Riyadh has also officially applied to join the BRICS group of emerging countries, with the bloc expected to decide on the Gulf nations' admittance later this year. The potential membership could result in good prospects for the kingdom's economic cooperation and trade with the BRICS states, according to Kozlov. Billionaires battle for Russian tech giant, Bloomberg. Vladimir Potanin and Vijay Alekperov have reportedly submitted bids for Yandex. Businessmen Vladimir Potanin and Vijay Alekperov have offered bids for a controlling stake in Russia's leading internet company, Yandex, Bloomberg reported on Friday, citing sources. The bids reportedly value Yandex's assets at nearly $7 billion and will be discussed as soon as next week, when the company's board meets in Dubai. A final decision may not be reached at the meeting, sources told the agency. Potanin and Alekperov are reportedly seeking at least a 51% stake in the tech giant's Russian business, which is said to be valued at up to 600 billion rubles, $7.5 billion. That takes into account a Kremlin-mandated 50% discount for foreign companies seeking to exit Russia, sources told Bloomberg on condition of anonymity. According to laws that regulate divestment procedures, companies departing Russia are obliged to sell their assets in the country at a 50% discount. Moreover, they must obtain government permission for the sale, and make a mandatory contribution to the Russian budget, amounting to at least 10% of half the market value of their local assets. The regulation applies to Yandex's business in Russia as the company is registered in the Netherlands, which Moscow added to a list of hostile states for supporting sanctions on Russia along with other EU members. Last year, Yandex announced far-reaching plans for a corporate restructuring, under which the firm intended to split its domestic and international businesses. The company is particularly known for its search engine, which is more popular than Google in Russia. It also owns a major share in food delivery and taxi-hailing apps in the country. While Yandex offloaded its news aggregator 2022, it still controls more than 60% of the local search market. Yandex has remained profitable despite Western sanctions on Russia, and reported net income of 5.8 billion rubles, $72 million, in the first quarter of the current year. However, trade in the company's stock has been halted in New York since February 2022, while the Nasdaq is seeking to delist its securities. Yandex's market capitalization peaked in late 2021 at $29 billion.